Secretary will call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Latta, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Runner, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
Secretary notices an absence of a quorum. Members, please come to the Senate floor. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Latta, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Runner, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
A quorum is present. Would the members and guests beyond the rail and the gallery please rise? We'll be led in prayer this afternoon by Chaplain Sister Michelle Gorman, after which please remain standing. We'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Leno.
Boop, boop. Let us continue to praise the greatness and gentleness of our God in the words of the Book of Wisdom. Yahweh, our loving Creator, your great strength is always at your call. Who can withstand the might of your arm? In your sight, the whole world is like a grain of dust that tips the scales, like a drop of morning dew falling on the ground. Yet you are merciful to all, because you can do all things, and overlook our weaknesses so that we can repent. Yes, you love all that exists. You hold nothing of what you have made in abhorrence. For had you hated anything, you would not have formed it. And how, had you not willed it, could a thing persist? How be conserved, if not called forth by you? You love all things, because all things are yours, Lord, lover of life. We thank you, you whose imperishable spirit is in all. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, members, privileges of the floor. Senator Pan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please join me in welcoming to the Senate floor Sergei Terabkov from the Slavic Chamber of Commerce, Alexander Stadnik, Trade Representative of the Russian Federation, Oleg Slepov, Deputy Trade Representative of the Russian Federation, and Robert Gaulin, Representative from the Republic of Tatarstan. They are here to celebrate and receive a resolution honoring Slavic Heritage Day. Slavic Heritage Day is the time when the rich history of the Slavic Americans is celebrated. Their contributions to this nation are honored. This resolution recognizes May 24th, 2015 as Slavic Heritage Day, encourages all Californians to participate in appropriate observances with activities that celebrate and commemorate Slavic Heritage Day, and commends Slavic Americans for their notable accomplishments and outstanding service to the state and to the nation. Thank you again for coming, and please enjoy your time in Sacramento. Thank you.
Welcome. Great to see you here today.
And you're next. Whose mic is it? Is she next?
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead and call it.
Senator Runner, for what purpose do you rise?
Privilege of the floor to recognize Memorial Day.
Please proceed.
Okay. I gave everyone on the floor here today a flag for Memorial Day and realized Friday we didn't talk about how important this day is to all of us. Most of us attended Memorial Day services at cemeteries, at veterans' homes, at VFW posts, wherever they might be. And I think we never really realize, and I didn't this year, I think most important, that 1.4 million men and women died so we have the freedom today to talk on this floor. The holiday was designated as Decoration Day after the American Civil War in 1868. Many volunteers that reminded me on all the cemeteries and the graves of the people who died in the war. That's why I'm placing the flags. They put them on their cemeteries. And it's much more than a day to enjoy our friends and family that most of us did, but to remember the brave men and women that sacrificed so we could be here. And I have a quote from Ronald Reagan that says, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free. And that was President Reagan. Thank you for allowing me to share today.
And thank you. Happy Memorial Day to all. Senator Wykowski,
I rise for privilege of the floor.
please proceed.
In our gallery, I'd like to recognize the 8th grade student of Mr. Von Holnalter's class from Our Lady of Grace School, which is the 8th graders located in Castro Valley in part of my district. I got a chance to meet with them earlier, Madam President, and talked about the Capitol and talked about some of my legislation. They're happy to be here. So thank you for being here today, Our Lady of Grace School in Castro Valley.
And we're happy to have you. Welcome. And Senator Gaines at the Pro Tem's desk.
Great. Thank you, Madam President and members. Today it's my privilege to bring an expert teacher, Brandon Del Orto, to the floor. Each year, the Daughters of the American Revolution nominate teachers for the prestigious Teaching Awards. Brandon Del Orto was nominated by the local chapter for his exemplary service to his students and impressive teaching resume. Mr. Del Orto was further chosen out of 50 other nominees from across the state to represent California as the outstanding history teacher, and he will later represent California in the national selection of History Teacher of the Year. In addition to 18 years as an outstanding teacher in the Placer County region, Mr. Del Orto is dedicated to seeing his students thrive outside the classroom as well. I cannot think of a finer example of public service. I'm sure I speak for my constituents in congratulating this excellent teacher for his determination to improve the educational system he serves. And he's joined by his sister and father. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you for your service. Now come on, I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, members, messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read, and amendments adopted. Under motions, resolutions, and notices, Senator Huff.
Republican caucus in the Cox Lounge.
Republican caucus. Thank you, members. If we could move forward on consideration of the daily file. Second reading file. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 516 and Assembly Bill 60.
Thank you. Governor's appointments. Item number 4. Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have 3 appointments that are before us, governor's appointments. First one is Tia Boatman Patterson, who is the Executive Director of the California Housing Finance Agency. Mr. Richard Gillihan, who is up for the Director of the Department of Human Resources. And lastly, Paul Rosensteel, who is a member of CalSTRS, the California Teachers Retirement Board. These appointments were heard on the Rules Committee on May 13th. They were all approved on a 5-0 vote in a bipartisan manner. Mr. President, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please take the roll.
Allen. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines.
Aye.
I. Galgiani. I. Hall. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wisso. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leba. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Wisso, aye. Allen. Hall. Allen, aye. Hall. Wynn. Aye. Wykowski. Aye.
Ayes 38, no 0. The appointments are confirmed. Let's now move forward to government's appointments, file item number 5, Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much. Again, Mr. President, colleagues, we have 2 appointments before us. That's Tina Johnson Hall and Commander Jody Breckenridge. Ms. Johnson Hall is a member of the California Housing Finance Agency, and Commander Joey Breckenridge is a member of the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transportation Authority, the Board of Directors. Both candidates' appointees were confirmed on a 5-0 vote, bipartisan, no opposition on May 13th. Mr. President, colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Any debate or discussion? Seeing none, members, is there any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 38, no 0. The appointment is confirmed. Moving on to Senate third reading, items 11 through 44. Okay, Senator Jackson passes on item 11. Item 12, Senator Mitchell, pass on file. Item 13, Senator De Leon, pass on file. File item 14, Senator Berryhill. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 433 by Senator Berryhill, an act relating to taxation.
Senator Berryhill.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 433 seeks to shift the responsibility of setting the gas and diesel excise tax rate from the BOE to the Department of Finance beginning in the 2016-17 fiscal year. Members, the department already performs these calculations in the governor's yearly budget, so no additional responsibility would be given, nor would the DOF require additional staff to do this. This bill would streamline the process by eliminating the duplication of efforts by the BOE and the DOF. The Board of Equalization, quite simply, is an agency that collects taxes and performs tax audits. The agency was never intended to forecast prices on goods like gasoline. There has been no opposition. There's been no votes. I urge your aye vote.
Members, any debate or discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to unanimous roll call? Seeing none or hearing none, 38 ayes, noes 0. Measure passes. Thank you. File item 15, Senator Hancock. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 230 by Senator Hancock, enacting to parole.
Great. Senator Hancock, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. SB 230 simplifies and clarifies our parole system by ensuring that once the Board of Parole Hearings has determined that an individual is eligible, suitable, and safe for parole, and the decision has been reviewed by the governor, and if it is approved by the governor, the individual will in fact be paroled. Currently, we have a very technical and convoluted system that makes it possible for an inmate to be found suitable for parole by the Board of Parole Hearings, but still have to serve several more years because our current system of sentence enhancements can add additional time for charges that the individual was not convicted of, or even charges that were already considered and included in the original sentence. The bill completely preserves and protects the governor's ability to review and reverse parole decisions by the Board of Parole Hearings and gives the governor more time than the current process to do so. This is a technical bill with a common sense goal, which would bring clarity back to our parole system. I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Any debate or discussion? Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is vastly more than a technical bill. This is another attempt to turn the criminal justice system upside down. What we now have is long established and seasoned law and procedures for not low-level offenders, ladies and gentlemen. These are the worst of the worst. Life inmates with possibility of parole. Murder first, murder second, kidnap for purpose, 3 strikers. Career criminals whose criminality has escalated, who have hurt more than just one person. In most cases. There are very few that get murder first or murder second on the first crime they ever did. And the way it historically has gone, 13 months before the established minimum eligible parole date, the Board of Parole Hearings can consider an inmate for suitability, 13 months before the minimum eligible. Now, this is trying to make the minimum eligible a whole lot sooner than they should. 15, it'd be 12 or up to 15 years, or 17 years, excuse me, and 25 to life. So they have to serve a lot of time, and they should serve a lot of time because they've really aggrieved the public, not just the victims and the next of kin, but society. Again, these are the very worst of the very worst, and this is not technical. The bottom line here is to get murder first, murder second, kidnappers, and 3 strikers out of prison sooner. That is the underlying goal. It's been attempted for many, many years. No, it's not a technical bill at all. And it puts enormous pressure on the commissioners of the Board of Parole Hearings, some of whom are going to be coming up for confirmation. They, by the way, have the hardest job in state government, particularly now because the gun has now been put at the inmates, at the board's head. And instead of the inmate having to prove their suitability, it is now the burden on the board. Again, turning justice upside down, the board has to prove them unsuitable. This was all wrought in a 1977 bill that Jerry Brown signed. In fact, it was called the Indeterminate Sentence Law. And the board then makes 2 decisions. If the panel and the board, they have to approve it, and the governor has to approve it. If the board finds him suitable for parole, then the second phase triggers. That board then establishes a parole date. Could be right away if they've served a lot of time. It could be a lot longer. But here's the fundamental point. This bill then excuses all previous behavior, factors in aggravation, meaning bad things they did in free society and while they were even in prison. Now we're not going to account for that. The board has to set that date right away and not consider those factors. Again, everything set in place to get the worst of the worst. Well, there is one level worse. Those are the death row inmates, who many now want to get off of death row too, because, you know, that's a cruel and inhumane treatment too. Well, think about the injustice, the gross injustice done here to the victims, the dead victims, or the otherwise hurt victims, the raped and robbed victim, the three-strike victims, plural, over a long period of time. What about them? How do they feel? Have you ever been to a parole hearing and watched the tears of the victims' next of kin when they sit through that hearing and hear everything told to them all over again? Have you ever had to comfort them after the trial? Well, folks, I have. We're dealing with serious business here. And the fundamental principle here is justice. Justice for society, or just deserts, for escalating and repetitious and most serious of all criminal behavior, wherein they should indeed serve a minimum term. They should indeed be found suitable if they are. And remember, some don't have to be. A life term can mean life in prison, and you die there. And just because you served a lot of years, society may need to exact a greater price, and that's the reason those sentences have been meted out. Those sentences were signed into law, that sentencing scheme, if you will, the determinate sentence law, by Jerry Brown. And I would hope if this passes, Jerry Brown would not sign this bill, indeed, because it is an injustice. As you consider your vote, think about society, think about the victims, and think about those victims' next of kin. They're watching us. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Stone?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also stand in opposition to SB 230. I'm a strong advocate for victims' rights, and I'm even puzzled as to whether or not victims can still attend a parole hearing. And I'm concerned about the language that it shall grant parole, not consider, shall grant parole. I think taking away important factors such as the number of victims and other issues takes away the tools that the parole board appropriately needs to hear before they let the most dangerous of criminals potentially being paroled. What this is going to amount to is a mass purge of dangerous people that can be paroled. 1 year before a prison term expires, a presumption is that the parole board shall grant parole, effectively saying that the sentence is 25 years, not 25 years to life. If we're going to adopt SB 230, maybe we should just do away with parole boards, Mr. President. I stand opposed to SB 230 and urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Any more debate or discussion? Seeing none, Senator Hancock, would you like to close?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I believe that some of these comments may be related to a version of the bill that I introduced last year. This is a very streamlined version of that bill, and it changes nothing about deciding about the present process of deciding who is suitable for parole. It simply ensures that if people are granted parole, and our Board of Parole hearings is very strict and very tough and very thorough, that if the governor has reviewed that decision, and he is very strict and very tough and very thorough, and it's been approved by the governor, that it will actually occur in an expeditious manner without factoring in previously considered sentence enhancements and other things. But this is a clarification of our parole system. It does not change eligibility for parole or make it less stringent in any way, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Cannella? De Leon? Aye. Fuller? Gaines? No. Galgioni? No. Hall? Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leba? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? No. Runner? No. Stone? No. Vidak? No. Wykowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Fuller,
Call the
no.
absent members, please.
Allen? Cannella? Hall?
Ayes 21, noes 15. Measure passes. File item 16, Senator Pavley. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 337 by Senator Pavley and Acroling to Healing Arts.